I want to move on a little bit towards another challenge that I hear from agencies time and time again, which is about recruitment, growth, and retention. So it's really tricky to acquire very good talent into a company. And it's even trickier in many respects to keep that talent there. I'd say the turnover rate in agencies as a whole tends to be a little bit higher than many other organizations. So what is it that you do to maximize retention within your company?
So, I don't want anybody to throw up, but we don't really have many problems with retention. In fairness, we're probably smaller than a lot of y'all. But the reason that we don't, I'm talking maybe 3 folks in the last 3 years that we've lost. There's a few factors to that. One, we cheat, right? We cheat on recruitment big time. Kevin, my partner, was either dumb enough or brilliant enough to be one of the founders of the Android meetup in New York City, which is now under the guidance of our wonderful, wonderful, brilliant Olivia, something over 3,500 members. We do run the DroidCon in New York, and we have our hand in most of the DroidCons in America in one way or another. We encourage our folks to go speak. We sometimes force our folks to speak. Part of coming to Touch Lab is you're at the center of that little developer and design world. And people are going to know you if you want them to know you. So we attract a very specific kind of folk. I think, but that's just our way of cheating, right? Navoda did something very similar, right? Knowing the boys over there. Kevin and Carl did an unbelievable job of doing just about the same damn thing in parallel in another country. And that thing, whatever that thing is, I think is crucial, right? Kevin and I we speak a lot. We're press hogs, and some people dig that. Plus, we have a lot of fun, right? We have a really good time internally, and it has paid off. When I remember putting up our ad for our very first designer, our very first in-house designer. And we got a reply the same day from possibly one of the best known outside of Google Android first designers. It was great, right? But that's all because we cheat. I think if you're no offense, right? Agency life is hard. If you're just doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, you're not getting who you really want.
Yeah, I think that's good advice.
Yeah.
Cheating is a good way to get ahead. I would say getting out into the community, automatically you self-select the people who want to be engaged in the technology, are then part of your meetup group or people who are just engaged with the technology.
Yeah.
And then in terms of retention, if you then recognize that the people you've hired are driven by a passion for this technology, again, that's another way to cheat. Give them a conference budget, help them plot a career path, make sure that there is education to help them build as developers or designers or product managers. It's all cheating, but you're just building really, really great people to work with.
And you don't have to start a meetup like your guys did and like we did. You don't have to start one. You can just get involved in one, right? We didn't start the iOS meetups. You get involved in community.
Sure. That's better than cheating.
Community. so much a nicer word than cheating. Yeah. Community. It's loving. Yeah. Loving and beautiful.
Pradeep, anything to add to that?
This guy's answered the holy grail. Kidding, but I think we are in the business of selling our people's time and efforts. We should have a people first approach policy. There's a lot of jobs for talented people. Why do they have to work with your agency, right? That's something you need to think of every day, every night before you go to bed. invest in people, give them meaningful work, challenging work, keep talking about how the work they're going to do is going to help the community or the society. I think that's one thing. Keep paying for their learnings, never stop about. So, in fact, we have Mustafa Fani Shaker, who they're with the company for the last 5 years. They started out as interns. Our internship program is really, really working well for us. They come through, our primary source of recruitment is via internship. Then we put them through something called as Mutual Mobile Academy. Ajay is here, I think he can talk about it. Our senior leaders in the company actually conduct these classes. They do these training programs, training classes. So having in-house academy and engineering leaders conducting those courses for the interns and making sure they're always working on exciting stuff and not just doing whatever other agencies are doing. If you are working on emerging tech, it actually helps because they're constantly learning.
Excellent. But have you used any of the Udacity content? So there's professional nano degrees that are available, and some companies have been doing study jams where you actually bring together a number of developers to learn at the same pace at the same time, and that motivates one another to go through the program at the same time and actually ideally get certified at the end of this. Is that something you've adopted?
We plan to actually use nano degree for our interns program. That's the prerequisite, or once you join, you need to get certified within 2 months, otherwise you're out of the company, out of the internship program. I think the senior engineering team has actually did the advanced courses in Audacity, and they benefited a lot from it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what are the benefits you've seen? Has that been more about speaking a common language or uniting
It's actually, when our engineers and when our developers, designers work on their crafts, there is no internal benefit, but when they actually speak to the client, it actually shows in the work, the kind of product we ship. So that's the benefit we have. Yeah. The quality products you see on the App Store, and that's because the training and hard work these guys do behind the scene.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that in terms of the training that you run internally?
Yeah, I mean, we have a very similar program. We run something called Novoda University, where if you join the company, you are put onto a training program for a few months. You get time set aside to read up on kind of common texts. We're now also integrating Udacity courses. And the other kind of added benefit we try and push a little bit is we try and get the people on these courses to give what we call hack and tell. So they talk about what they've been learning, and it's a chance to kind of push them a little bit, maybe to talk to everyone else. So that's just a quick kind of 15-minute talk through. And then out of that as well, they gives them kind of a basis for speaking technically to other people if they don't have that already. So yeah.
And Jeff, what about TouchLab University? A university thing seems to be.
TouchLab University was almost a very different thing. So we don't have a formalized program officially. Everybody goes through a thing. We don't have a name for it. We don't at this point use Udacity. We are in New York. Since we're all there, we're somewhat fortunate in that there's consistently something happening, right? So our folks learn from one another. They learn, quite frankly, not to give him a big head, but a lot from Kevin. And there's a lot of one-on-one time with him. And then we have them go teach, right? We were very fortunate to Kevin help develop a program over at C4Q at Coalition for Queens, which helps underrepresented folks learn development. We at least had a hand in reviewing GAs. A General Assembly in America has the official Android course, in-person course. We had a hand in reviewing that. We have folks who go out and mentor different young developer groups. There's a lot to learn in the projects that we do because we tend not to do the same thing twice very often. But we do think that getting out and teaching one another also reinforces quite a bit.
So actually, a question I've got as well is we're seeing quite a strong debate between native and web, and what's the role between the two. and whether you can just get away with a web client when the right time is to go native. Do you have any strong feelings about that? So I'm going to ask you last, because actually I'll ask you first on this one, because you'll sit very clearly on one side of the equation, I suspect.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I think there are certainly occasions where hybrid applications or web applications are a good solution. I don't think it's as often as certain companies would like, and from a budget perspective, it can always make more sense. Native development does inherently take longer, but certainly for Novoda, we're very much focused on quality, and we're very much focused on quality of experience from a user perspective. And I mean, I'd love to see someone challenge it, but I've yet to see a web application that could meet a good native experience.
Yes, yes, and yes. So yeah, look, there's Kevin and I have this discussion, and there are always situations where a hybrid, that's a nice name, a hybrid application makes sense, and it's generally where, quite frankly, the user has no option. Right? It's an educational app. There's a specific budget requirement, and what's the student going to do? Say, I really don't like this teacher, so they have no option. Doesn't matter what their experience is, because you don't care as an organization. Sometimes internal corporate apps are forced down the throats of employees in the same way. As you can see, I'm not a huge fan. So when the experience doesn't matter, great option, right? When you don't give a crap about the person who's getting it, awesome. I agree, I've not seen, now that's not to say I haven't seen really great web applications in native wrappers. I have seen that. I can think of a few shops that do an awesome job at that. Well, Active Theory is one that I'm thinking of. But those are damn specific cases. They're like games or event-driven things. The challenge with native both ways, right? Because again, the platform is increasingly, in my opinion, increasingly going to be less important. I'm not going to say that out loud, though. The glass is what matters, and getting to the glass and delivering that experience is what matters. And the big challenge with native is you're building the same crap twice. Very often, right? All the logic, everything underneath the hood is the same damn thing twice. And as you're maintaining it over the course of months and years, you get even copy-paste errors. And those things have to be tracked down, and that's a real cost. There are some good solutions. There may be a much better solution on the horizon, and that's all I'll say about that. But it is a challenge, but there is no comparison to native when it comes to quality.
It's interesting you say that in the context of progressive web apps like Flipkart, for example, where you just have a pure mobile web experience that arguably delivers a very native-like experience, but purely using web technologies, rather than, I'd say, the hybrid WebView apps, which is a slightly different case.
Right.
But,
doing a thing. Yeah.
We do have a world-class web team in Austin in our office, and they have shipped really, really elegant products. So we are agnostic in this debate. We apply what is the right solution for the client, and we have shipped web views inside a native container. So we do what is best for the client or what is best for the product. We don't want to take these sides and not get into this but there are times when you want a extremely good experience, we recommend native. Yeah. We err on the side of the native. Yeah.
Another question I've got is, have you convinced, I don't know if you've stumbled across this problem where maybe they come from the iOS side, your customer, or they come from the Android side, and they seem to believe that one size fits all. I think you're kind of nodding and smiling, never come across it before. In that situation, how have you brought arguments that actually work with them to convince them that that's not the right way forward. And I know trust is an important part of that. We've talked about that a little bit already. Is there anything else that you've used to convince them that actually they've got to think a little bit differently about this?
Kevin and I have two different little vignettes that we're big fans of in that situation. Kevin's is, and I'll tell it wrong, and Kevin will correct it later. Find Kevin later, and he will tell us in the clever way. The stepchild theory, right? Android users are damn tired of being the stepchild with the hand-me-downs. Here is your Instagram app 8 months later, stripped down in functionality. And you know what? It looks just like an iOS app and functions like one. And it doesn't feel right to people, and they hate it. They hate it. I tend to talk more about the rating spiral, right? Android users they're going to be vocal, and they're going to vote with their thumbs, right? They're going to give you the low star rating, and the second you dip below 4, really, but let's say 3.5, people are thrilled to give you 1s, right? If you're above a 4, then they're like, damn, if I give this guy a 1, it's like me, it's all me. But you're at 3.5, they're like, nope, I'm thrilled to just pile on the 1s. And then it's just, and that comes from not feeling an experience. Right now, we tell those little stories, but then really and truly, it is that design has to be centered on a user, and it has to be educated by the context of that user. In whatever that, and the context shifts in the different situations, but in the situation of mobile, a very important context is the platform that they're used to. And you would never, ever have a designer with no experience in iOS design an iOS app unless you just had money to burn and didn't care about results. And people relate to that very quickly.
I would say a good, building on that, a good kind of thing we push is the kind of, okay, yeah, that's a great idea, cool. So we take that basis of the design, we'll do just another design for our own sake because we have our own opinion, and then we'll do some very basic user testing because we try and push user research-based design. And oh look, surprise, the iOS design doesn't seem to work with the 5 people we pulled in. Well, we're going to have to go with the Android design. That's much more native to the platform.
That's well done.
And that's, I mean, it does depend. I think that you can't do that all the time. But if all the arguments fail, then it's easy just to pull in 5 random people and say, this is our expert witness.
In the past, we had issues with that, but I think with the material coming along, customers and clients understand the value of design, but it's still hand-me-down, as you said, and the CEO's hands phone problem. They design primarily for iOS, and when Android is always second, in thought and in always like product getting the app out, especially in North America. That's when we get our iOS designs. Our designers actually go through it and completely do the material for it and implement it.
Excellent. I'm going to come to a last question now because I know we're running out of time. But if you were going to give one tip to the other agencies here, something you found useful internally within your own company, that you found a way of doing things that maybe is not hugely well known, but has been really helpful for you as a company, what would it be?
So in my head, the one tip, the silver bullet, I would say listen to your developers. If they feel like they're building a bad app, odds are pretty good they are building a bad app. We've any agency, especially in the beginning, you take the work that you can find, and you build something that's based on iOS. And if you listen to your developers, they hate doing that because they know instinctively they're building something they don't believe in or care about. And if you optimize for somebody who's building something that they believe is a quality product, then what you're going to end up with is probably a quality product.
I think the digital landscape is vast, and don't try to be jack of all. pick few vertical specializations and be world class at it is my advice.
Say no. Say no when you know you should say no. Stop saying yes when you know you should say no. You know you should have said no. You know that client is the same damn client you had 3 months ago and he's just as bad as that guy before. Say no. You know that decision is wrong. Say no. It sucks and it's terrifying especially when you're little and you're starting, but say no.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much to our panelists. I mean, there's a ton of different things we could talk about, and I'd like you to explore some of these topics later. It could be around design, resource planning, prototyping, interagency collaboration, and continuing these kind of conversations afterwards. What team structures do you use? How do you operate teams effectively? How do you do with pipeline management, structures, roles, thinking about the market? All of these things are fascinating to talk about and hear these different perspectives in the room. So I'll just leave that with you to think about, and thank you very much to our panel. Thank you, Jeff, Pradeep, and Ryan. It's been fascinating. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.